Hello guys, and welcome to one more Play It Right. Today I'm going to show you how to play Alakazoo by Creative Maker. Alakazoo is a family board game where 2 to 4 players take on the role of wizards competing in a magic tournament. Your goal is to summon a fantastic creature as quickly as possible. In order to do so, you need to activate magic runes on your portals, which in turn will allow you to cast magic spells. During the competition, you will be able to use the support of the castle keepers, and at the end of the tournament, the magic jury will evaluate your proficiency in the art of magic by giving you points. The wizard with the highest total score will win and will receive the title of Arcanimus. So let's have a look at how to set up the game and getting to know the basics. Before the magic tournament begins, you need to do the following. First, each player chooses one portal board and takes one castle keeper figure and one magic power token, which they put in one free slot at their castle keeper figure. Then you need to prepare the deck of spell cards. For a 4-player game, all of the cards will be used, whereas with 3 players, you need to leave out the spell cards belonging to one of the fantastic creatures, and for 2 players, you leave out those belonging to 2. The cards you leave out cannot be those that belong to a fantastic creature that is shown on the portal boards chosen by the players. After that, you shuffle the prepared deck and deal 4 cards to each player. You then draw the top 4 cards from the deck and arrange them face up in a row and draw one more card for each of the columns, only partly covering the card under. The maximum size for each column is 4 cards. After that, you need to discard and place any discarded cards in the discard pile. You also place the magic power tokens, dark power tokens, and point tokens on the table so that each player has easy access to them. And last, you need to determine who is going to start the game. That player takes the 3 spell dice. The game is divided into turns, and each turn starts with the active player checking how many dark power tokens he or she has. For the first turn, since you don't have any, you just move on to choosing one of the 3 available actions. The actions can be about rolling the spell dice, getting cards to better your hand, or using the castle keeper's power, which allows you to perform spells and change or rearrange the spell cards placed. So in general, starting a turn, if you are the active player, you need to check how many dark power tokens you have. If you have 3, you must return them to the supply and hand the spell dice over to the next player, and that will be all. You don't perform any actions. If you have less than 3, then you have the option to just return them to the supply and skip the turn, or choose one of the following 3 actions. Action 1 is about rolling the spell dice. The player chooses 1, 2, or all 3 of the spell dice and rolls them together. The result of each die rolled is then resolved one by one, but the order is up to the player. Let's have a look at the die results. If this symbol appears on the die, the player takes 1 magic power token from the supply. They must immediately put it on their portal board on any rune which is not already covered by a magic power token, or put it in one free slot at his or her castle keeper figure if there is any. If one of the other symbols appears on a die, the player chooses a matching rune on their portal board which is not covered by a magic power token, and places there 1 magic power token from the supply. If there is no matching rune on the player's portal board that is not yet covered, he or she takes 1 dark power token from the supply and puts it in one free slot of his or her castle keeper. If all slots are occupied, then the player needs to discard 1 magic token and place the dark power token in its place. Note that you can never have or receive more than 3 dark power tokens on the same turn. If you need to receive a 4th one, you just don't take it. Also note that if at the end of your turn you have more than 6 magic power tokens, you need to immediately return the excess tokens to the supply, but you choose which ones to give away. Then you receive 1 dark power token and put it in one free slot of your castle keeper, unless all slots are occupied, in which case you replace a magic power token with a dark power token. Action 2 gives you the chance to better the cards on your hand and you can choose between the following two options. You can choose one of the columns of spell cards and add those cards to your hand. Then you add a card from the deck to each column from left to right. If there are already 4 cards in a column and the card added would be the 5th one, these 4 cards must be discarded before the new card is added. Your second option is to discard any number of cards from your hand and draw the same number of cards from the face-down deck. This option enables you to avoid exceeding the hand limit of 4 cards. In general, if at the end of your turn you have more than 4 cards on your hand, you need to choose and discard the excess ones. On top of that, you receive a Dark Power token and put it on one free slot at your Castle Keeper, following the same rules we've seen before. The third action allows you to use the Castle Keeper's power. In order to do so, you must return to the supply one of the Magic Power tokens, which you might have in any one of the 3 slots of your Castle Keeper. If this is the case, then you immediately perform one of the Castle Keeper's special actions, which are the following. Either discard a spell card from your hand and take one spell card lying in one of the columns on the table. Or another action is to exchange a spell card from your hand with one of another player's hand drawn at random. Then you take one Dark Power token from the supply and put it in one free slot at your Castle Keeper. Alternatively, you exchange a spell card on your portal board with a spell card from your hand. Or last, you exchange the spell card from another player's portal board with a spell card from your portal board. Then take one Dark Power token from the supply and put it in one free slot at your Castle Keeper figure. One important note is that the spell cards exchanged on portal boards must be of the same type, as in place a head card for the head, a left hand card to match the left hand, but they can belong to any fantastic creature. In the last round of the game, the Castle Keeper's action cannot be used against a player who has all 9 spell cards on their board. After one of the 3 actions we just described has been performed, the player can place any number of spell cards on their portal board. A spell card can be placed on a portal board slot with 2 active runes, as in runes covered by a Magic Power token each. Before placing the card, remove the 2 Magic Power tokens from the space and return them to the supply. Again, as noted before, the spell card which is placed must be of the right type, corresponding to the space on the portal board, but it can belong to any fantastic creature. The decision to place a spell card on a particular turn is completely up to the player. They're not obliged to do so. When a player places a spell card on their board, they can potentially receive up to 2 points. They receive 1 point if the spell card belongs to the fantastic creature shown on their portal board, and they receive 1 point if they are the first player to place a spell card on that position. So for example, when placing a spell card in the left leg space on their portal board, the player checks the left leg spaces on the portal boards of all their opponents. If all of these spaces are empty, that player receives the point for being the first to summon the left leg of their fantastic creature, plus of course another point if the left leg on the spell card belongs to the fantastic creature on their portal board. After having performed an action, placed any cards they wish to play, discarded any excess cards and excess Magic Power tokens, the player now passes the spell dice to the player on their left and their turn is over. The player who now has the dice can begin their turn. The end of the Magic tournament is triggered when one of the players fills the last empty space on their portal board with a spell card. This player receives 1 point for being the first to finish. The rest of the players can have 1 more turn. The Magic jury then grants additional points for the proficiency in the art of magic. Each of the completed rows and columns on each player's portal board is checked. Players receive 1 point for every completed row or column in which all 3 spell cards belong to the same fantastic creature, and 1 point for every completed row or column in which spell cards belong to 3 different fantastic creatures. Players do not receive a point for incomplete rows or columns, or for completed rows or columns which contain 2 spell cards from one fantastic creature and 1 from another. Players also receive 1 additional point if all of the spell cards on their portal board match the fantastic creature represented on that board. The portal board does not have to be completed for this point to be awarded. So in the final scoring stage, each player can receive from 0 up to 7 additional points. Once these points have been awarded, the player with the most points in total has won the Magic tournament and has received the title of Arcanimus. So that was Alakazoo. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the game.